My partner was swayed by his overbearing father and insisted on a DNA test for our newborn daughter. I reluctantly went along with it, but my father-in-law somehow altered the outcome. I'm Lily, 27F, and I've been with my partner, Ethan, 31M, name altered for privacy, for 7 years, married for the last 3. Let me give you some context. My father-in-law, Richard, has always been a challenging figure in my life. Early on, I brushed it off, thinking it was just how parents act when they're protective of their kids. I grew up in a fractured home, leaving when I was barely 18, and I've had little to do with my own family since. That left me with no real benchmark for normal family dynamics. Looking back, I can see how the tension with Richard has been simmering for years, and now it's erupted into chaos. I'm at a loss for what to do next. When I first met Ethan's parents, we were at a casual barbecue. Richard seemed friendly enough at first, grinning, offering me a drink, but as the afternoon wore on, his remarks turned sharp. "What do you do all day, Lily?" "Just spend Ethan's cash." "Ever thought about hitting the gym? You've got potential if you toned up a bit." "You're sweet, but no one's ever going to match up to my son." I should have seen the warning signs, but I was head over heels for Ethan. Richard's jabs were always wrapped in a hearty laugh or a pat on the back, so I let them slide, not wanting to seem petty. 4 years, Richard kept up this pattern, little digs about my looks, my career, or the notion that I was with Ethan for his bank account. Here's the thing. Ethan and I are both architects, pulling in solid salaries. I actually out-earn him some months, so the gold digger label is laughable. Early on, I confided in Ethan about how much it stung. He'd tell his dad to ease up, but Richard's comments were never outright cruel, so Ethan chalked it up to his father being overprotective since he's an only child. Plus, we didn't see his parents often. Our jobs kept us swamped, and their house was a 2-hour drive away. Things took a turn when Ethan proposed. I won't bore you with the details, but Richard turned our engagement into a battlefield. We broke the news over coffee at their place, and when he saw the sapphire ring Ethan picked out, he lost it. He demanded to know the price, then scoffed when Ethan told him, "We're comfortable, not extravagant," and the ring was well within our means. Still, Richard ranted that I didn't earn something so flashy and grumbled that Ethan never spoiled him like that, like a father's entitled to outshine his son's fiancée. He even hinted that Ethan wasn't truly committed after 4 years together. Ethan told him to calm down, but the mood was wrecked, and we left soon after. Richard didn't call for a month, then sent a half-hearted text about not wanting to lose his boy. Wedding planning was a nightmare. Richard tried to rewrite the seating chart and haggle with our caterer. Oh, and he showed up to the ceremony in a tuxedo that outshone half the groomsmen. Ethan had my back, locking down vendor details so his dad couldn't meddle. Our first 2 years as a married couple were blissful. We dreamed of kids and started trying as soon as we settled in. But when I got pregnant last spring, the storm hit. We drove out to their place with a gift box, wine, truffles, and a little frame that said, "Grandpa." When Richard opened it and pieced it together, what happened next? My father-in-law, Richard, fixed his gaze on me and said, "Are you certain that's Ethan's kid?" I was floored, but he chuckled as if it were all in good fun, and the night rolled on. That's when he started needling me about my appearance. "You've packed on some weight lately, huh? Watch out, or Ethan might start looking elsewhere." I kept fit as a fiddle when my wife was pregnant with him. "You ought to try harder to stay appealing for my son." He went on about old friends of his who'd raised kids that turned out not to be their own, dropping hints like he was testing me. He'd smirk and say things like, "Hope you're not pulling one over on us," suggesting I'd been unfaithful. I hated every word and kept asking him to cut it out, but he'd brush it off with, "Oh, lighten up. Can't handle a little ribbing?" Then he started name-dropping Claire, 29F, Ethan's old college girlfriend. He'd rave about her sleek runner's build and how she and Ethan were such a dynamic pair back in the day, both outdoorsy types. Those remarks, mixed with my exhaustion and the chaos of pregnancy, left me in tears more than once. Early on, Ethan would snap at his dad to knock it off, which only made Richard double down, grumbling about sensitive women. But by my 6th month, Ethan started pulling away. He'd head to his parents' place alone on weekends, brushing off my pleas to stay when I was dizzy or aching. Around then, he stopped giving me quick pecks before heading to work, barely touched me at home, and turned into a blank wall, No warmth, no words. I was baffled. When I pressed him about it, he'd snap that I was smothering him, or he'd sigh and say he was wiped out from work. Once he even muttered that I was losing it because of the baby. I tried to shove it aside and focus on myself and the little one growing inside me, but I knew Richard was in his ear, planting doubts. When our daughter arrived 2 months ago, Richard demanded to be in the delivery room. I begged Ethan to keep him out, but he shot back that if his dad wasn't welcome, he'd skip it too. I was too drained, physically and emotionally, to fight, so I gave in. The labor dragged on, brutal and messy, but cradling my girl made every second worth it. I'd endure it 10 times over for her. Moments after they handed her back to me, all cleaned up, Ethan leaned in and said, "I need a DNA test." I laughed, thinking it was some dark joke, but his face was stone cold serious. I kept asking why, stunned. I'd never strayed, not once. I'd been freelancing from home while he worked on site, and the pregnancy had me too wrecked to even think of stepping out. He just kept saying he had to know for sure, and didn't want to foot the bill for someone else's kid. It shattered me to hear him talk about our daughter like that. I agreed to the test. I had nothing to hide. We got the results a month ago, and as the headline warned, they came back negative. I insisted it was a mix-up, but Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. He grabbed a bag, stuffed it with clothes, and bolted to his dad's place, leaving me alone with a 1-month-old. I called him over and over, no answer. I texted, begging for a retest, swearing it was a mistake, but he ignored me. 2 weeks later, he finally picked up. I was a mess, drowning in diapers and sleepless nights, desperate for a shred of support. Instead, he said, "Dad was right all along," and hung up. I can't believe I tied myself to someone like you. That's when it all fell into place. What did he mean when he said his dad was right? By then I was convinced Richard had been feeding him twisted stories. Maybe that I'd been sneaking around, that I wasn't worth trusting, or some other wild accusation. Yesterday, I decided to call my father-in-law since Ethan had gone silent on me. When Richard picked up, I said I needed to talk to Ethan, that he couldn't just ditch me and our 1-month-old daughter after everything I'd endured through pregnancy and delivery. He let out a dry laugh and said Ethan wasn't there, adding, "You're getting what you asked for." That was my breaking point. I was done with their games. I had my little girl to protect now, and I wasn't about to let them trample her the way they trampled me. I'd had enough of Richard's garbage. I shot back. "I don't care what you think. I've never betrayed Ethan. That test was a sham." That's when everything shifted. He chuckled again and said he wasn't surprised. Then he admitted he'd swapped the sample to guarantee a negative result because in his mind I didn't belong with Ethan. He wasn't going to let me chain his son down. He doubled down. "Ethan's never going to pick you over family. Give it up." I was speechless, frozen for a moment. Then he launched into a tirade about how he'd always pictured Ethan with someone on his level. Someone polished, fit, a real match. He brought up Claire again, going on about how she was the perfect fit and how Ethan needed to see she was his true path. The DNA test? Just a shove to push Ethan out the door so Richard could steer him toward someone better. I ended the call right there. Since then I've been in a daze. How does a grown man sink this low? That brings me to now. I messaged Ethan immediately, laying out what Richard confessed, and told him to ask his dad himself. I'm lost on what to do next. Another DNA test feels inevitable. Should I push for it? I've been mulling over getting a lawyer, but I'm scared of stirring the pot even more. If Ethan comes crawling back, do I even let him in? I'd love any thoughts. Like I said before, I'm cut off from my family, haven't talked to my folks in ages. They skipped our wedding, and I doubt they even know about my daughter. I grew up in Oregon, moved out west to California after ditching home, and scraped by with odd jobs through school. Met Ethan in grad school, and I've been freelancing ever since. No close friends nearby, no family to lean on. I reached out to a colleague, Sarah F., who's local. We've swapped texts now and then. I gave her the short version and she offered to swing by. When she showed up, I was a disaster. Unwashed for days, house trashed, my 1-month-old screaming. I broke down the second I saw her, which was weird since we're not tight, but she stepped up. She asked what was happening, and I couldn't get the words out, so I handed her my phone with the post. Sarah's been a lifeline, watching my daughter while I scrub the place, eat something real and finally shower after weeks. She's furious for me, And honestly, having someone in my corner feels like a weight lifting. That's where I'm at. A few of you asked about Ethan's mom. She's quiet, stays out of the fray. I don't know her take on me, but she's never been cold, just lets Richard run the show. I've racked my brain over why my father-in-law Richard has it out for me, and it's not about race or faith like some suggested. We're all the same background, no religion involved. I suspect it's because I'm Kavya and taller than most, while Ethan's lean and obsessed with hiking. I'm not unfit. I hit the trails myself, but I don't match the slim frame of Richard or Ethan's past girlfriends. That's my theory anyway. Today I'm calling a lawyer. I can't see Ethan the same way anymore, and I'm set on divorce. I've saved screenshots of every text, ones with Richard, ones with Ethan, just in case it came to this. I'm also ordering a new DNA test and plan to slap the results on him with the divorce papers. He's ignored my messages, and frankly, I'm past caring. I don't want my daughter tied to a dad like that. It infuriates me he bailed on us without a word. I'm done with him. Update number 2. Hey everyone. It's been a wild few months, and with all the comments and DMs asking for more, I thought I'd fill you in. It's been 3 months since my last post. Ethan showed up 2 days after that first update. Thanks to Sarah, I'd pulled myself in the house together by then and had a lawyer on speed dial for divorce talks. He rolled in at dawn, a total mess, scruffy beard, eyes red like he'd been bawling for days. I wasn't ready for it. We just stood there silent until he broke down and said sorry. I'd sworn I was through with him, but seeing him there hit hard. 7 years of love don't vanish overnight, and his apology stirred something in me. I let him inside and we sat in the kitchen, me cradling my daughter. He couldn't stop sobbing. Then he asked to hold her. All the anger from the past weeks flared up, and I refused. He didn't push, just nodded and sat there. Once he pulled himself together, he asked to talk. I agreed. I needed answers. Thanks to a tip from a comment, I recorded it on my phone. Here's what came out. He didn't buy what I'd texted about Richard at first. It gnawed at him though. Eventually he cornered his dad. Richard tried to spin it, saying I was out to lock Ethan down for his paycheck and cut off his family. But Ethan's mom, fed up with Richard's schemes, stepped in and spilled it all. Turns out Richard had a cousin at the testing lab who fudged the results at his request. Ethan said it was like his whole world imploded. He saw how rotten he'd been as a partner and dad, and how toxic his father was. Hearing that felt like a win, but there's more. Richard's meddling ran deep. He tried to justify it, saying I was too bulky and unrefined for his perfect son. He wanted Ethan to ditch me and get back with Claire. Prettier, fitter, a better fit in his eyes. He hated how much time Ethan spent on me and our daughter. It stole the spotlight from him. It gets uglier. Back in my 5th month, when I was too wiped to tag along, Richard had Claire over at his place. He fed Ethan lies. That my exhaustion and mood swings meant I was cheating and saddling him with someone else's kid. Claire, tiny, gorgeous, all charm, was there. Playing along, Claire cozied up to him every chance she got, and Ethan admitted he'd bought into his father's lies. He started meeting her secretly, craving the attention while I wrestled with a brutal pregnancy. He was the one stepping out. He swore it never got physical, just dinners, walks, a few kisses, like that softens the blow. He said guilt hit him hard, so he broke it off a month before my delivery. After spilling it all, he begged me to take him back, promising he'd do anything to fix it. Even cut Richard out of our lives for good. For a fleeting second I wavered. His words tugged at me. But then I looked down at my daughter, and every wound he'd inflicted rushed back. How he let his dad run rampant, how he betrayed me, how he vanished when I was at my lowest. I told him that after everything, the pregnancy chaos, the abandonment post-birth, it was over. I didn't recognize him anymore, and the trust was gone. He broke down again, then agreed to crash at a friend's place nearby. I pushed for another DNA test too. He resisted at first, muttering it wasn't needed, but I held firm and we set it for the next week. The results in divorce. 3 weeks later, the results landed. Surprise, he's her dad. He teared up again, but I felt this quiet triumph. 2 months of hell later, I had the divorce papers drawn up and handed them over. He was a mess, suggesting therapy to work things out. But I was beyond done. I demanded half our assets and full custody, with my lawyer confident we'd win, thanks to the recorded confession of his antics. Ethan stuck with supervised visits every other weekend, and Richard's banned from seeing my daughter. He didn't fight it. Guilt's eating him alive and it should. Ethan's mom called me the day I served him, apologizing for staying silent too long. I let it go. She's always been soft-spoken, and Ethan hinted she's finally leaving Richard. Richard. I've wiped him from my life, blocked him the day Ethan showed up. Looking ahead, I'm packing up this house for a fresh start elsewhere. It stings watching my marriage crumble like this, but there's a spark of excitement too. This chapter's closing and I've got my daughter to build a new life for. I'll be offline for a while. Time to pour everything into her and me. A huge thanks to everyone who's guided me through this. I wouldn't be standing here without you. Update 3. Can't believe it's been over a year since I last checked in. I ditched social media after that last post. Needed a clean break. Here's the quick rundown for anyone curious. The divorce wraps up next week. Ethan flipped last minute, fighting the custody terms and visits, dragging it out for months. But my lawyer crushed it with that recording of him owning up to his mess before, during, and after my pregnancy. I'm almost certainly getting what I asked for. My daughter's 16 months now, a total joy, curious giggling lighting up my days. We relocated halfway across the state to a cozy condo with a little balcony. My freelance gig lets me stay home with her most days, juggling deadlines and playtime. I've started stepping out too, joined a hiking group and even a pottery class. New faces, new friends. It's a slow rebuild, but it feels right. The divorce, the move, raising her solo. It's been a grind, but I'm freer without Ethan and his scheming dad dragging me down. I kick myself for missing the red flags. How he always bent to Richard's whims over his struggling wife. Lesson learned hard and clear. I won't let that slide again. What's next? Dating's not on my radar yet. I'm soaking up every second with my girl, being the mom she deserves. This is probably my last update. I'm in a solid place now, miles from where I was, and I owe a lot to everyone who cheered me on. Thanks for sticking with my story. If you're new here, subscribe and ring that bell for more raw, real-life twists.